Hey guys, Liquid here, and welcome back to Let's Answer Some Questions. As always, push buttons below, and I shall answer them next week. Let's get started. Red Hood 440 asks, what type of weather do you hate? Now, there's not really anything I would say, I just offhand, like in all cases, hate too much. I'd say maybe, I guess, a hot weather, I suppose, like in terms of cold versus hot. I would say I prefer cold stuff, which I think most people are actually. I'm trying to think of what most people would say, because it's like, if you're cold, yeah. I want to say that might be like most people, because I think most people would say that they prefer to be cold because it's easier to like warm up, maybe. But it might be I might be thinking of the opposite. Um, I've never really cared too much for the summertime and whatnot. Um, I guess I was gonna possibly say like rainy weather, but honestly, I don't really care too much. True Alpha Jaden asks, "Can I play more Sims?" Possibly. Because on my channel, I've let's played the Sims Bustin' Out for the Game Boy Advance, which is very different from other Sims games in that it's you're sort of like fulfilling relationships and whatnot like Sims games, but it's got like a plot and a story and an end to it. Um, and the only real Sims game that I've really put too much in put a lot of time into, like making a family, like the traditional Sims games, is a Sims 3, which I did quite enjoy. Um, Type of thing though, where it just takes so it takes so much time and be such like a long project. So I feel like if you were to do that, you would need to set goals for yourself on like when you want to end it or something like that. Like I don't know, play a sim through like a generation or something like that. So I'd say like that's as for doing like traditional Sims games, I would say it's not really too likely. But I have thought about checking out like other sort of spin-offs, like the Game Boy Advance one that I did before. Like I don't know, there's like an Herbs Sims in the City, but I never played it. But I really enjoyed Sims Listen Out on the Game Boy Advance, so it could be fun to check out another one. Magma Ascending asks, would I consider learning any more languages after I perfect Japanese? Simple answer, I would say yes. Like I have thought about, even before I started learning Japanese, I had like if you go into my channel, like search Dutch, um, like maybe around 2013 or 2012 or so, actually, I started learning Dutch because I liked the idea of like learning a new language, and I knew that Dutch was considered very similar to English, and so I started learning Dutch. And honestly, I would say that my the skill, like the level that I ever got to in Dutch, was really nowhere near, I would say, like the level that I am in Japanese. Mainly because I feel like I lacked the passion that I really have with Japanese. Like, it was the type of thing where I was more kind of interested in like was reading about Dutch and learning about Dutch rather than what actually studying. But if I were to go back to it, with all that I've learned about, what it's like to learn a language and what it feels like to understand things and whatnot, um, like Dutch is probably something like I that it's like, well, that little splinter sticking out in the past that I feel like I need to go back and pluck someday, or if that makes sense. Um, Other than that, like there's the traditional Spanish, French type thing. Um, it's this type of thing also, because with Japanese, it's a kind of a different story because like if you look at like any list of like most difficult languages for like an English speaker, for like a native English speaker, Japanese is consistently considered like one of the hardest languages to like or like when I say hard, more like when it comes to languages, there's not really a such thing as hard and easy. I feel as much as does it take more or less time to get proficient? With Japanese, you have pretty much no similar words. It's a completely different language. It's not like Spanish where you can kind of like look at words and guess what they mean or something like that. Plus, the writing system is completely different, and you need to learn thousands of characters, which takes a whole lot of time. But like, if I were to like do something like Spanish or again go back to Dutch, I feel like if I were to actually discipline myself and apply the same strategies that of like hard studying and whatnot, and just getting it done, like I have a Japanese, I feel like I would it would be a much smoother process. Um, I feel like 6 months. If I were to spend 6 months, consistently studying Dutch or something like that, like it would be a very powerful period. If that makes sense. Which also is what I was talking about. What I was trying to get at with talking about how long it takes is I think a lot of people who have not learned a language do. I think a lot of people that like give up or you know just haven't tried it out yet underestimate, I guess, how much effort and time that it does take. At least with Japanese, like when I think about just when I reminisce on like all the days and whatnot that I've spent studying or listening and all that stuff, like it honestly is frightening, like how much time I've spent on it. Um, but like again, I feel like that could be lesser with other languages, but it's also the type of thing where I think so many people have these ambitions of like, oh yeah, someday I want to be a polyglot and know 1,000 different languages, which I realize I'm starting to get into like a tangent here, but like if there are a lot of like YouTubers that do videos showing off their ability to speak many languages. These famous polyglots as they call themselves. And it's the type of thing where as you learn more of a language, I think you kind of realize that oftentimes, I'm not trying to like say that all these polyglot people are fakes or that they're lying or anything, but it's more like for someone who doesn't know anything, or like any languages, the bar of sounding proficient to someone who doesn't know something is very low. If someone, if you don't know Japanese and you just say like a very basic sentence, that's gonna sound very advanced to you because you don't have the ability to discern what's correct grammar and all that stuff, and like what's advanced speech rather than just like a simple greeting. And so a lot of like polyglot people, while I do admire their work, I think with a lot of the cases of the polyglot people, like these polyglots, who go around speaking or like claiming to speak 70 languages or something like that, like their ability usually is like isn't as high as the average person might believe, if that makes sense. Like they might have like a language that they're kind of proficient in, but like all the other languages they just kind of like know. They might know the very basic ins and outs, but like not really know how to converse on a deep level, if that makes sense. So what was I actually going? Where was I going with that? So I was just kind of like getting at that, like if you actually want to get to like a very very high level in a language, it takes a lot of time, and so there's which I don't really feel like you have in your lifetime to really learn a gajillion languages, like to super duper duper level. Like you could probably dabble in languages and kind of get to a certain, like you can get like a bunch of languages maybe to like a 30, but like, you probably only get like one or two to like 100, if that makes sense. That's just my opinion. that feel free to disagree with. So where was I going with that? But yeah, like when it comes to like other languages, like I said, Dutch probably something I would like to return to, or maybe even also German, because like I think a lot of people when I told people that like, I was learning Dutch, a lot of the response was would be like, why are you learning Dutch? Like it's it's such a a useless language. Um, Whereas I feel like German would feel people would feel differently, because even though it's rather similar to Dutch, um, it's also it's more popular. Um, I think like I guess Spanish would be a big one, like just because it's it's spoken a lot in the United States. Um, but really, it's only like time will tell. Uh, if I ever actually do get around to that, or whatnot. Like I said, like with Japanese, I feel like a big thing that has helped me get to the level I am is because I am like passionate about Japanese entertainment and whatnot, and I've read a lot of manga and books and whatnot in Japanese, and listened to podcasts and whatnot, which for a language like Spanish or Dutch or some of that, which I don't really care about the culture too much. I think it would be harder to actually get proficient in them, because my only real exposure to them would just be like textbooks and whatnot. I think there's actually a like a proverb in Japanese. I think that's like a skikoso m- m- jozo are, or some of that. Like where there is there is uh like proficiency. Let's look this up. What was it? Skikoso, yeah, skikoso mono no jozo nare. And it's, what one likes, you will do well. You will become good at what you like doing. Yeah, I think that answers it. Oh, and also just you know, just talking about perfecting Japanese is something where the more and more I study, I don't really study these days as much. I just kind of interact with the language, like reading and whatnot. But the more and more I learn of Japanese, the more and more I feel like I will never perfect it. Like there's just so much, so much vocabulary is like the big thing that like right now is like in my path. Like there's words and words and words and just like expressions and proverbs and whatnot that come up a lot. And so if I ever did get to like switching to another language, it would probably be like I would never get to 100. I don't think I'll ever get to like 100 in Japanese, let's say, and then say like, okay, I'm done learning Japanese. Now let's switch to Dutch. Like, because that will never. I don't believe that will ever happen. Where I'm just like done. You know what I mean? I'll always be learning something. But I'll get to a point where you know, you know, Japanese has become more or less mundane or something like that. So, and I'm not really learning it anymore as much as I used to. So let's switch. If that makes sense. Hopefully, I answered your question because I kind of rambled quite a bit. Another question for you: do you plan on doing more Metal Gear Solid games? Yes, I at some point. Um, I do actually have the Metal Gear Solid like HD collection, which I think the version I have. I think the version I have it's which has like Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. I think. Um, and I think and I also do have Metal Gear Solid 4. Um, which I think those those would be good to play sometime. I also speaking about the Japanese thing, I did actually record like some time ago. The whole doing. I have this whole thing on my channel of like trying to do Japanese stuff and whatnot, and I think like probably a year ago now. I never actually uploaded it, but I actually did record a couple parts of let's playing Metal Gear Solid, the first Metal Gear Solid in Japanese, which I think I made like an update video at some point talking about how like there are a lot of games like JRPGs and whatnot that I like to play in Japanese at some point, and so I probably will get around to like maybe like doing them twice. Like doing them in English and then doing them in Japanese, or possibly vice versa. Um, but I would like to do the rest of the Metal Gear Solid games because I do really like them, and possibly also do the series in Japanese at some point. And final question. Hey Liquid, I have a question. Did you play the PC disc or digital version of Ultimate Spider-Man when you Let's Played it? Right. So when I Let's Played it, um, like to beat around the bush, like to not beat around the bush or whatever. Um, I acquired the game through not so legal means, let's just say. I do have the game on PS2, but for recording it, I had to I didn't have any way of recording, you know, consoles at the time, so I quote unquote acquired, let's just say the PC version, which was obviously because I acquired it. I just I played it digitally. Um, so if there's like something specific that you're trying to ask in regards to the versions, like whether like there's like problem with the disc or something, I can't really help you. But I imagine like the digital or PC, digital or disc would be more or less the same. But yeah, I did play it digitally, let's say. But that's all the questions for this week. Hope you enjoyed. Christmas is approaching. Hopefully everybody's having a good holiday. I may or may not do some sort of like Christmas special type thing. I might just not do anything. I'm not really sure. I think, let's see, yeah, I think we'll have another week to Christmas, or I think, yeah, it's about a week until Christmas here. So hope you enjoyed. Hope everybody has a good time and whatnot. And till next time, look it out.